if we're looking at others for our guidance in terms of, oh, they made a lot of money at this, so that's what I'm going to do, isn't listening. That, to me, that's conjuring, right? So, but if it intrigues you, if it holds you further to follow that path because it's like, oh, this is really interesting. I really like this. This is intriguing to me. Then that becomes the thing that, and again, that intrigue, all that kind of stuff, that's how you're being communicated with. That's the listening, right? Is following, again, that energy.
Okay. Hi, folks. I'm sitting here in my trusty RAV4. I just turned the air conditioner off for a second because it is blazing hot outside. I'm picking up my daughter from daycare. I'm not daycare, summer camp. Anyway, my next guest is Karen Luniw. She is a life coach, and she's been a life coach since before life coaching was a thing. She's truly an early adopter of this. And she specialized in helping people who were at the high income corporate levels move up even higher in those levels. I met her when I was going through Reality Creator Academy, one of Quasi Johir's program. If you're not familiar with Quasi, check out his YouTube channel. He's got some tremendous stuff. And she is also a member of Finding Fuscata over on our school community. So, she's smart enough to join Finding Fuscata, so she must be awesome, right? Anyway, we had a great conversation. We talked about manifestation and holding emotions in your body and vibrations and frequencies and all this other kind of stuff, where she really, really has deep expertise. And even though the stuff we talk about frequency, it's one of those things that I don't understand how it works, but I know that it does work. Kind of like gravity. No idea how it works, but I'm sitting on the ground. But anyway, she is also has a website called liveanolimitslife.com, and I would highly encourage you to go check it out, because I think by the time we get to the end of this conversation, and please do stick around to the end, you'll definitely want to join one of her programs and get to know her, because she is warm and genuine and kind and lovely and just overjoyed with just doing this kind of work, and she loves people, and she's amazing to work with. I can attest to that personally. So anyway, without further ado, here's Karen. One of the things that I have found in my life, and I want to see if maybe you can help me unpack this and see if I'm viewing this the right way, is that I set an intention for this, for the YouTube channel, for the podcast, for all this kind of stuff that I'm doing, so that within a year, I'll 3x my current income and I can do this full time.
Right. I
set that intention. And from going through your material and working with you, I know that's in my future, right? That's in my vortex.
Right.
But what do you think? What should be my next steps? Like, what do I do, like, emotionally and in my body and in my mind and in my visualization to kind of move towards that? Or do I do anything?
Yes, you do things.
I can't just like smoke a bong and
well, you could. Yeah, but, where do I start with that? So everything is a frequency, right? And so where you exist now and where you want to be, they're both frequencies. They're just different frequencies. The frequency that we desire to have, or the place that we want to have, the intentions that we're setting out, is that frequency already exists. It's already there. It already exists. There's already you who is living that life and that experience. Can I stop
right there? When you're visualizing that, so when I visualize that, I think of like radio stations or TV channels. I can just like turn the dial and I go into like, FM 109. I can listen to public radio, or I can listen to rock and roll station or whatever by turning the dial. So those are all kind of happening simultaneously.
Right.
But then some people also talk about like quantum shifting or parallel universes. And
Mhm.
to me, those seem like they're kind of the same thing, but they're also kind of different. Do you understand that better than I do?
Um, they are the same thing. In my
Oh,
mind, they are the same thing. So it's just that, again, parallel realities, parallel universes, quantum shifting, that's what you're doing is actually in that process is moving. And I shouldn't say moving, you're actually merging with that reality. And when you merge with that reality, like we're always shifting every moment of every day. Many times, even in every moment we're shifting. And it just depends, are we shifting towards, into that
mm,
timeline or into that reality, or we're shifting away from it. And the more that we are in that feeling space of that end result, the faster we start to shift towards it. There's always going to be a time delay, right? So
mm,
whatever it is that we're keeping our focus on, and whatever frequency we're focusing on, um, it will show up in the outer world. It's just that it's starting in your inner world. And uh, how we keep moving towards that. And when I get, I say moving, but part of me kind of goes, it's not a movement. It's um to me, it's emerging into that timeline.
mm,
So but through time and space we are moving, like that actually what makes time and space work. So
mm.
is that movement. But it doesn't mean that it's not already here. That's the thing, is just that it's not visible to us. We cannot experience it until we match it. So how you start to match it is by taking actions, and the actions that you take are all about what lights you up, what energizes you, what excites you,
Hmm.
what intrigues you, what's that curiosity. I mean, that's really how you came to be doing this, is that
Yeah.
there was something about it, to doing podcasts. There was something about it that just lit you up, right? It just
Mm.
energized you, and so you started working towards that. And so and now here you are, right? But you followed that energy.
I did, yeah, and that was something that you had said to me, of just following the energy and following the path. And then I had also been coming to, I don't want to say coming to terms with, but I had been meditating on the idea of submission and submitting to that thing that I knew that I needed to be doing. But one thing that I found really helpful was tuning out everything else
Yeah.
and being just brutally honest with myself,
Mhm.
because you know how many iterations this took before I got here. Like how many had times, like I had the idea I was gonna like start a woodworking YouTube channel, and then I was gonna start a coaching program for men, and I was gonna, like, I had all these ideas. They were all
Yeah.
over the place. They're all over. And you're just like, okay, Sean, yep, that, try it. Like, see, where does the energy lead? Where does the energy lead? And what I eventually came down to was, what I started to see was that all of those other things were just distractions.
Yeah.
And they were just distractions from the one thing that I really wanted to do.
Yeah.
And I also found that, I think you'll appreciate this too, is that, in fact, I was just having a conversation with somebody earlier today, is that I had gotten to a point working with you and working with Quasi and working with some other folks and therapists and studying on my own, going through all like the Mind Valley programs. I got to a point where I had all the tools.
Mhm.
And then uh, the lady I was talking to earlier today, we were saying how people can, then you get afraid of stepping out on your own.
Mhm.
And one of the things I say a lot is that you run the risk of becoming always a swordsman and never a warrior.
Right.
And you never go out and slay your own dragon.
Right.
And there's a tendency, I'm kind of getting off subject a little bit, but there's a tendency when you get into these programs to think that, oh, Quasi's going to go slay my dragon for me, or Karen's going to go slay my dragon for me, or you know what I mean. But you have to take that first step. And then,
Right.
but when you take that first step, you find out that, you know what it felt like? It felt like stepping out of the forest.
Right.
Like I was in this forest and I could see like the woodworking and the all this ideas everywhere. But then once I took that first step and did this, I was like, oh, that's the thing.
Right.
And it stepped out, and now it's just a clear path.
Right.
And there's like synchronicities and neat things and cool people, and just like stuff is just like it's just flowing all over the place.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's been absolutely tremendous.
Yeah.
But one of the things, I don't know if you've seen this episode that I did, but I talked about the eighth hermetic principle. Are you familiar with that?
No.
I think you'll like this. So it's called the 7 hermetic principles, right?
I knew of them. I don't know. I don't know them. Like
Okay.
I'm yeah, they're yes.
So basically it's like, it's kind of, in Hermeticism, it's these 7 principles that kind of talk about how reality works.
Mhm.
There's rhythm and everything, there's gender and everything, there's everything vibrates. It's like all those sorts of things. But there's an 8th hermetic principle that kind of like encompasses all of them.
Mhm.
And it's the idea of care. And it's the thing that when you start putting energy into that, then things start to kind of emerge out of it.
Mhm.
But that's the thing that I've been focusing on is, what's the word? The more energy, the more focus I put into this thing that I'm doing, the more it grows, the more it becomes.
Right.
So, but yeah, that's the frequency. It's just been amazing. It's been absolutely amazing. I kind of just went on a little rant right there.
No. I mean, that's great, because that's really what it is. It's just like you don't have to do anything, but when you actually start following the energy of something, and that intrigue, again, those things that just, there's like little breadcrumbs, right? But and we don't know where we're going, but we have a vision, but we don't know what the steps are. And so, but the steps are really being they're being fed to us by, in my mind, our higher self, right? And for everybody, that could be something different. It could be source, it could be God, it could be universe, but whatever that is, there's something, there's those breadcrumbs, and the way those breadcrumbs are leading to go, or where we want, to get to where we want to go, is by following that energy, because that's how it communicates with us, is through that vibration of that energy of, again, excitement or passion or curiosity or intrigue. And so each step will be revealed as you go. Very much like you just said, you walk out from a forest and there's all this stuff, but when you choose one, then it starts to reveal itself. There was an Indiana Jones, and it was the one with his father, which was Sean Connery, and I think it was the one with the Holy Grail, and his dad had been hurt as in their quest to find the Holy Grail, and they knew where it was. It was on the other side of this giant chasm, and he needed to get to the Holy Grail in order to put the holy water in it or something like that. But anyways, that's what he needed to do. But there was no visible way to get across. There was nothing hanging, like he likes to swing from things, and there was just nothing there. And he remembered something. I don't remember exactly what it said, but it was like, the step is always before you, right? The way is before you. And so he took some dirt and threw it out, and lo and behold, there was this bridge, but it was so well hidden in terms of just being camouflaged to look like that he was able to cross it. But that's the way it works. It's like it keeps revealing itself. And I think to me, that's one of the best analogies to, it's like, to get where you want to go, the next step is there, but you have to keep throwing dirt.
Throwing dirt. Yeah. man, there was like five different things popped into my head while you were talking. I gotta get better at taking notes. But oh, there's an emotion. There's like a this like it's like a sensation. It's like a physical sensation that you feel.
Right.
That and I've noticed it more lately. It's been much more pronounced.
Hmm.
Uh, it's been more intense and it's been more frequent recently.
Hmm.
Um, what do you feel that, like, do you get that same kind of feeling, or
Hmm. Hmm.
talk about that from your perspective?
Well, again, we're always shifting, and so the closer that we're moving into our ideal frequency, or the towards our goal, we start to vibrate in a different way. We start to sense, have sensations in a different way. It's not
Mm,
just emotion, and that's one of the key things that I do differently um, than I used to, which was, to me, it was all about emotion, excitement, and that kind of thing. But and when you connect and visualize and or just connect in with that goal, it's actually receiving that frequency. And when you're receiving that frequency, then what you're
mm,
doing is not only allowing the emotion in, but allowing that vibration in your body and that sensation in your body, because that means when you do that, you are really starting to vibrate. You are becoming that. And it's different because you can't
mm,
do what you want to do and be the same person. You just can't.
mm.
So that sensation starts to shift and change that. And so uh, that's why one of the things and as you know, I recommend is like activating that frequency, activating that receiving of that goal, of that the frequency of that goal as often as you can, because it just keeps putting you into that state of what you know and faster it happens.
Yeah, I did. I had a massive identity shift recently, and that's one of the things I found really helpful with Quasi's work is just focusing on the identity shift, and the
Mhm.
mirror principle, and how you are on the inside reflects on the outside, and really, really focusing on that. And I hadn't realized that I had done it before
Mhm.
until I did it again, and I realized, oh, that's the same thing that I've done those other times.
Yeah.
But it was like when I quit smoking, I just one day I was like, oh, I'm just not a person who does that.
Right.
But it was an internal, like it was like right in my solar plexus. Like I just had this knowing that, oh, I'm just not that guy.
Right.
And the same thing with alcohol and some other things in my life where I made that shift on the inside.
Right.
And with with the podcasting and building this thing that I'm doing now, it was that same sensation where I said, oh no, I don't do these other million things. Like, I'm not a guy who's trying coaching. I'm not a guy who's doing this. I'm not, like, this is just who I am now.
Right.
And just shifted in. And then you just, you, uh, what's the word? Push everything else away. But, but it is a very, very distinct sensation. Where do you feel it in your body? Is it like right, like for me, it's like right at the, like where my rib cage meets,
Yeah.
kind of my upper belly right there.
Yeah. It just depends. It depends. For me, at times it is yeah, it starts in that kind of that zone that you just described as like quite quite a level of excitement for me. It was just like, yay, right? And it's just like, or I mean, there's lots of times I've manifested things because I was just bloody mad, right? It was just like I was mad. I was
Mm,
stomping my feet and demanding. It's just like, and then so the same thing. It was just like this. It was like an intense energy, right? That
mm-hmm,
just came out. But then again, if I'm activating on an ongoing basis, it's just that my whole body really is just, I don't know, tingly, let's say.
mm,
Um, but yeah, it's when we it's Abraham Hicks, she talks about just, sending out that rock of desire. And that's really what that is, right? It's just like that.
Mm,
It's bursting out. And same thing what Joe Dispenza, everybody kind of talks about it in a different way, right? But
mm.
it is getting to that point where you feel it so intensely. And that it is, and so, again, you're in that sensation so intensely that it just sends that out. It's just like an explosion to a certain degree.
I'm wondering too about, okay, so I've been on this journey too for a long time, and one of the things where I always got frustrated, and where I know a lot of other people get frustrated, is that they'll try to embody that sensation. They'll do all the work, like Neville Goddard said, to like you get into the feeling. Like if anybody's
Mhm.
familiar with Neville Goddard, it's like you are in Barbados.
Right.
Like that saying. There's no doubt
Yeah.
about it. You're just like, that's where you
Yeah.
are. And I th- oh man, this is a kind of a complicated idea, but let's see if I can do this quickly. Is that it seems like if you are, in my case, if I am trying to generate that emotion internally in my body and then visualize where it is that I want to go, I can do that all day long for days and days, and nothing will ever happen. It's like I'll never get there. But like you said a minute ago, sometimes you manifest things like, and you're angry and you're frustrated and you're just like, like I want this now, right? And what I've found is that when I've done that, then the thing that shows up, the things that I manifest, tends to be laced with that same kind of anger.
Mm.
You know what I mean? There's always something about it that's like not completely peaceful. It's not
Mm.
completely, it's just always just something that's that there's some anger in it.
Mm.
And then I look at it and I realize, oh, well, because I was angry when I did that. So it makes sense that that thing is angry now. But here's the thing. I'm curious if you could weigh in on this, because I've done a lot of work on clearing out limiting beliefs.
Mhm.
You and I did a lot of work with the clearing, and for me, clearing out those limiting beliefs, my core limiting beliefs from when I was a child, that's been the most important thing to me. That's made the biggest shift in my life.
Mhm.
And it almost felt as if that, oh, okay, this will make perfect sense to you. It was like that core limiting belief is a frequency itself. It was
Right.
a frequency itself, right? So when I was talking to Whitney, she talked about that infant version of me who had set up this construct of how he thought the world was,
Mhm.
and then he set up barriers to keep me safe so that I
Mhm.
could live out through my whole life. But that, because that was a thought process, that by definition is frequency, right?
Right.
So so then it would make sense then that once that thought process is gone, then that frequency is gone.
Right.
So then that's when you can do like that timeline collapsing or the quantum jumping, or like however people do that, or like you talk about, like that's when you can adjust your frequency to move forward. So it's like, I think what I'm trying to say is that in my own life, I found that I wasn't able to easily move forward with manifestation or any of these things until I cleared away that limiting belief. It
Absolutely.
makes sense. It's like a
Yeah.
boat anchor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, how I think of things is, you know, we're here, we're doing life, and the frequency of the ideal that we really want to be living is right here. It's all around us, right? It's, not
Mhm.
to the right, to the left. It's really, it's all around us. We just are not able to experience it. And there's a number of things that get in the way. And so one of them is distraction. It's like, okay, well, I want to, just a lot of people, they focus on money. It's like, okay, I want to make $10,000 a month. Oh, but really like 5 would do, or, but I really like 30,000. Right. And so they being, go back and forth. It's like being at a restaurant. It's like, okay, I'm gonna get the steak. No, I want a hamburger. No, I want, and so like the message is garbled. So distraction is one of those things. But the thing that I'm really good at is, again, there's those limiting beliefs. And in those limiting beliefs, we have these paradigms that just don't work for us. Just like you said with Whitney, it's like there's this idea that you as a young person developed, and that was a belief, and that was a paradigm that you lived through. Now, in that, you can sometimes just actually changing your mind, like you say, about smoking or whatever. Sometimes all it means, all it is like, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to choose that anymore. And so you choose it and choose something differently. And so that's a paradigm shift. But what often gets stuck for people is it's the energy of that old paradigm, of that belief that gets stuck. That energy gets stuck in our field. And that's what, when we've done, or the release, the FRACing, the release and the activation, that's when we release that energy, then that allows us then to, that's when kind of sometimes those quantum leaps are made very easily, or all of a sudden it's just like those synchronicities, you can see them there. You're following that energy without that limiting paradigm and or that energy. And then when that happens, it's like magic, but it's not.
Hi folks, Sean here. Excuse the interruption. I want to ask a favor of you if I can. I know you don't owe me anything, but hear me out. Finding Fuscata has been a dream of mine for a long time. And for many, many years, when I was in the military and even as a civilian, I struggled with a lot of limiting beliefs that held me back from doing the things that I knew that I was supposed to be doing. And when I overcame those limiting beliefs, I was able to start flourishing and growing, and I'm branching out into new areas, and my life is really, really changing. And what I want to do with Finding Fuscata is to take those lessons that I've learned and share them with you so that you can do this too, because it's an amazing world out there once you get past some of these limiting beliefs and once you understand your true capabilities in life. But to do that, I need your support. So if you would, consider like the video, subscribe to the channel, follow along, hit the bell for notifications, and definitely get involved in the discussions in the comments. And I would also encourage you to go take a look at school.com. That's SKOOL.com / Finding Fuscata. There's a Finding Fuscata. And there I'm building a community of people who have been on a journey of spiritual awakening, or they're recovering from religion, or they are just generally seeking truth, or they're frustrated with, they're trying to learn manifestation practices, but things just aren't working. And they've been to coach after coach after coach, and stuff just isn't happening. Because that's the journey that I went on. So what we're doing over there is we're having very deep conversations about how these things work and what it's all about. And it's a great community that I would encourage you to join. I'm only asking $1 a month right now, and that's mostly to keep out the riffraff and to make sure that you're not bought. But if you object to that, or if you can't for whatever reason, then by all means reach out to me and I can get you into the program anyway. Because the point isn't to make a cajillion dollars. I'm not trying to do that. I'm trying to get this message out to people, to help people's lives improve and to help them move on to the next level the way that I did. So if you're interested in that, if you'd like to join me on this journey, I welcome you. And I thank you for your support. Thank you for the time. Now, let's get back to the conversation. Talk to me about FRACing.
Mm-hmm.
What is this? How does it work?
Well, so FRACing is like, it's frequency release and activation. clearing. And so for the longest time, I started doing a release process. And that's all I did was just release that energy. And so again, it was just identifying where is somebody, and just, for me, it's about getting a sense of what's getting in their way. What do they have some energy around? What's a belief they have that as they're talking, that's what I kind of can pick up on and say, oh, that's the thing that's stopping you, right? But for anybody, it's like if there's something where you're upset about it, or you're triggered by something, that's just an indication that there's an energy stuck there. There's a belief that's not working for you, and then there's an energy associated with that. So I just go through the process, something that I've created. It was a riff off of of what other people were doing. It's just like, this came to me. This was my own download of, this is, let's try this. And it's worked. It's worked amazing for my clients over time. It's just being able to release that energy. Recently, probably in the last year and a half, I realized that I would help people release this energy, but then there was like a void there. It was like, okay, what do we fill this up with? Because what often would happen is that people would then actually start practicing and looking for that old energy, because that's what felt normal for them. So then I would activate the energy and the frequency of what it is that they do want. And I want to actually just say something too about.
So that's where the release and the activation.
That's right.
You got to release that, but then replace it with something else.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. And if I can, and I just kind of want to go back, because you had started to talk about why, there's people do all this stuff around trying to manifest something. They do all the things right, and yet nothing changes. And what I've come to learn, because I've been teaching this for a very long time now, is one, when we're conjuring up, then that's why I don't actually talk about visualizing so much. It's just that you can go to that end state of the thing that you want, but then you want to ask to receive the frequency of it, as opposed to conjure it, because we can conjure up the emotions, we can conjure up, and there's a difference between conjuring and receiving a frequency. Because if we're conjuring it, then we're just coming up with the best thing we can think of, and with what we already know. But our mind and our consciousness is if we're just using our mind, it's very limited, right? It's only going on what it already knows, whereas your higher mind has access to everything, right? The higher mind could also, be thought of as your subconscious mind. It has access to everything. So if you actually ask to receive and be open to receiving the frequency of that end result, to me, it's almost like coordinates, in space. in time and space, let's say, but it's like coordinates you're tapping into and receiving. And
wait, say that again. Coordinates, how?
It's like, where you're going. Okay, and you're tapping into that coordinate of where you're going, what you want to have happen. And in there is a frequency that there is a frequency that exists there for that thing. And I'm going to tell you a cool little story in a moment about this, and it'll make it a little bit, it might make more sense, but it's
okay.
But in that frequency, you're just tapping into it, and it's almost like a data download.
Just to clarify, so you're saying tapping, but you mean like tapping into a tree to get the sap out, not like tapping.
No,
not like EFT tapping, but like tapping into a tree. But it's also not tuning, though, is it? It
is, because
it's like tapping a keg and releasing that contained energy.
That's right. Yeah.
To you, right?
Yeah. Okay. And which is like tuning, you're tuning into that. If we go to the radio analogy, it's like you're tuning into that channel, right? So, and being really clear about what it is that you'd like, right? And we do this all really naturally. Look, we're all manifesting right now.
So, all right. So I'm kind of piecing this together as you're talking, but before before we started talking, I was listening to an interview today with, do you know who Ian McGilchrist is?
I've heard his name. I don't know that I've watched him.
So he's a psychiatrist. He's like one of these creepy, brilliant guys, you know? And he wrote a book called The Master and His Emissary. And he basically breaks down the function of the right and left hemispheres of the brain and what they do and how they interact, you know. And essentially the left hemisphere of the brain is the one that is more, that's the part of us that seeks and finds and grabs and defines and categorizes, you know. And but then the right hemisphere of the brain is kind of out there in space and doing stuff and taking all that information in. And I know I'm butchering this definition, but I'm trying to keep it down, because his argument is that from a evolutionary point of view, because we see this in almost every entity that has a brain, it's got these two hemispheres,
right?
And it's because one side of us, like part of us, needs to be finding food and putting it in our mouth, or finding a mate and making more of us. But while we're focused on that, we need to still be looking out for the predator. We need to find food while we're not becoming food,
right?
And but that part of us that is looking around is taking in so much more information. So his premise is that his book is called the Master and Its Emissary, and we, particularly in Western culture, tend to think that the left brain, the one that wants to categorize and find and, you know, do all that kind of stuff, is the one that's in charge.
Right.
The fact of the matter is it's totally not in charge. That's
Correct.
the emissary.
Yeah. Right.
The master is your right brain that sees everything, is taking in all that other information.
Right.
And then but one of the things that he was talking about this interview, he was talking about prayer. And because he's another person, a prominent person in the psychological world, I guess, but who is like shifting more back towards Christianity, which is interesting. There's a lot of people that are migrating towards Christianity. But he was talking about how prayer is not asking. You don't ask for anything in prayer. You listen in prayer.
Mm-hmm.
Like you can voice your request, but most of prayer is just listening and finding that thing, you know. And it's receiving. It's literally, it's just you're receiving downloads,
right?
You know, downloads from the cosmos. But I have to wonder about a lot of us in this law of attraction community. Oh, hold on one second. I'm sorry. My wife just texted me. I forgot to bring my water bottle down. I'm starting to get cotton mouth. But what was I saying? Oh, a lot of it, and we talked about this earlier, is that we get this idea in our head, like this is something that I want to do.
Right.
Like when I was working with you and I wanted to start a YouTube channel for woodworking, and I was like, I want to do this because other people are doing it and they're having success, and I want to do it because I love woodworking, you know. And I was just like determined. I'm like, this is what I'm going to do. I even spent an obnoxious amount of money on woodworking tools, you know. But then I spent a couple days out there woodworking and I threw my back out. I'm like, this isn't going to work. Like, I can't do this, right? But the weird thing is, though, is that, and I often say that I got brutally honest with myself, but really what I did, now that I think about it, was I just like sat down, shut up, and just listened.
Right.
And listen to what the frequency is. Like, what's the thing that's calling to me?
Right.
And it was this conversation.
Right.
But that's when I was able to cut everything away.
Yeah.
But so I say all that because it seems it's almost like a distinction without a difference of receiving, I don't even know how to say this, but you know what I'm getting at. How would, it's like you're receiving the thing that it is that you want to be doing, and then you want to be doing it, so then you start doing it, and then you start receiving more of it, but it totally wasn't the thing that you thought that you wanted to start doing. Right? I mean, I know it sounds like rambly, but do you know what I'm getting at with that?
Yeah, I think, um, yeah, what will happen is it will reveal itself, right? So often that the thing that we think we want, well, if we're looking at others for our guidance in terms of, oh, they made a lot of money at this, so that's what I'm going to do, isn't listening. That, to me, that's conjuring, right? So, but if it intrigues you, if it holds you further to follow that path because it's like, oh, this is really interesting. I really like this. This is intriguing to me. Then that becomes the thing that, and again, that intrigue, all that kind of stuff, that's how you're being communicated with. That's the listening, right? Is following, again, that energy. But it will probably never end up like you think it's going to. And if it does, that's great. As you were very clear and you were listening and you were tapped in, right? But
Yeah.
and but it requires kind of a higher level of awareness for that at times, right? But again, if the passion is so strong, it's like I knew when I started my podcast back in 2006, I already thought I was late to the game at that point, right? And to me, I had learned about law of attraction. I wanted everybody to know because I had incredible things that happened for me. And I didn't have clients at that point, but Jeff and I were using this, and it was just like bing, bang, boom, like you say, these synchronicities were showing up. I wanted the world to know, and I'd heard about podcasting. It's like, okay, I'm going to learn about this, and there was nothing that could stop me. Absolutely nothing. It was not easy to create a podcast at that point in time. Like I had to learn different XML language and such a little bit at that point, and it's like, okay, I'm doing this. And finally got it out. And it was like, 5 months after The Secret came out. So this was, like I had been teaching, or I'd been learning and actually still teaching in my job to clients, anybody would listen, about law of attraction at that point. But it was before The Secret. And about 5 months after it came out, I got my podcast up. Well, it went to the top of the charts and stayed there for 13 years. And I didn't do that much to it, for it. It just went up and stayed there. That was because I was just following that intrigue and that passion and that excitement, because it's like, I had no idea where it was going to lead. I wanted to have my own business. I wanted to actually coach. Actually, I didn't want to coach. I actually wanted to create programs and just sell them about that. But so what I had in mind was not coaching, but everything in my life up to that point had led me to be a coach.
Yeah. It's funny that I tried the coaching thing, and it's not my cup of tea. Like, it's just, yeah, I'm like, definitely not what I want to be doing. But it is interesting that when you talk about your podcasts, well, is the podcast still around?
Yeah, it's still out there. I still have people, they seem to sign up and
But there's no new episodes?
No, I actually, even when I was doing it, I stopped probably doing, so that's 2006 when I started it. I probably did maybe, well, for 4 years, I did a podcast every month, because that's kind of like, that was the thing at that point. Or was it a month, every month, or once a week? I don't know. I can't remember. But anyways, so I did a lot. Must have been just once a month. And then I got angry with it.
Really?
Yeah, just like, nothing's happening. I'm just doing this. People are, I'm on the top of the list, but what's it getting me, right? That was my feeling. But and so in that time, since probably 2010, 2011, I've done maybe 4 or 5 podcasts since then, but it continued to stay, and it probably would have continued to stay at the top of the list, except that iTunes changed their algorithm, and so they no longer, because I was doing video way back, like way
Oh,
back, and they changed it to actually just audio. But I was at the top of the list in audio for a long time, but then in video I was always at the top. So
wow.
yeah.
I take all these recordings and I release the video on YouTube,
Yeah.
and then I take just an MP3 and I load it up on the podcast sites.
Yeah.
And
Yay.
my beautiful wife.
I'll drink when you drink. Cheers.
Exactly. Are you going to get her, babe? Okay. She's going to pick up my daughter. She's at summer camp. It's like a day camp for kids, so
Yeah.
which is nice. But that means that here in about 20-30 minutes, the dogs are gonna freak out and have a 7-year-old that's like, daddy.
Yeah. Whoa.
She wants to go in the pool. So I guess we got about 30 minutes tops.
Sure.
What time is it, by the way? 1:45.
1:45.
Yeah. So her camp gets out at 2, and then Kelly will probably stop and get a drink or something like that. So yeah. Anyway, okay. Where I host my podcasts on Podbean,
Mhm.
and Podbean has a similar monetization policy to YouTube,
Mhm.
where when you average 1,000 downloads per month, then you can monetize it, and you can get ad revenue from when the ads that play in your podcast.
Right.
And then when you average 10,000 downloads a month, you can you'll be put on a list that advertisers can see, and you can reach out to advertisers, or they'll reach out to you to actually read like an ad on your podcast. So but I don't know if iTunes does that at all. I don't think you can't host. I always have problems with
I'd be a
iTunes. I can
millionaire.
never get my stuff. I know, right? Yeah. That's what I'm saying. It's like, hey, why not? Just like, you've already did the work. Just switch everything over to Podbean.
Yeah.
Like, here you go.
Yeah, it's possible. Yeah.
Why not?
Yeah.
But I'm not. It's weird though, because I'm not motivated by that. I'm more motivated by I'm just having fun.
Yeah.
Really, I'm just having fun.
Yeah.
Like, I'm talking to you. I talked to, Whitney was fantastic. Talked to Dawn Bennett, Regina Barberti. I've got there's a lady, she's a psychologist that I talked to this morning. We just had like a preliminary conversation. But I get to have amazing conversations with amazing people.
Yeah.
And like, how cool is that? And if I just keep doing it, like every Wednesday and every Sunday, and I just post another one, and people start watching it, then I could eventually get paid for this. Like how is this not? How did I not start doing this so long?
You're right. Yeah.
But actually, that brings up something else too, and I want to get your perspective on this. At the risk of sounding like a prima donna, but you've seen me from the outside for almost a year now, right?
Yeah.
Because we met over on RCA, but I guess it was like June, or it was July when I joined.
Yeah.
So it's been a year.
Yeah.
And oh my God, I remember when I first joined the Reality Creator Academy, I hadn't realized how many just wounds I was carrying around, and preconceptions and prejudices, and until I started getting in there and getting involved with the community, and these things just started like lifting and clearing away. But I'm wondering, because I've been living behind these eyes through the whole time, and I know that there's some things that are different, but do you see anything different? Like, do I seem different to you? And I don't mean, I like, it seems like a weird question to ask, but have you noticed a change in me?
Yeah, absolutely. You were searching, right? It's like you had these ideas and you were searching about, where to go, what to do with, and you have, I think really you first started talking about that you wanted to write, right? And
Mhm.
then
Oh yeah.
and then the idea of podcasting, and maybe it was already, it was there before, but then that came more to the forefront. So you just, it's like, again, it's just kind of like the vision kind of gets, gets clearer and clearer and clearer, right? And I was so excited when you said that you started to do this, because it was like, yes. So yeah, I mean, obviously there's a change. So again, you've just been refining, right? You've been refining that vision, and so you can't help but be different.
Yeah.
But
Guess that's true.
also, I'm just going to say, for every one of us, we're always shifting in every moment.
Mhm.
Again, we just tend to shift back to the same thing, right?
Well,
Because
yeah.
we pay attention to outer reality, and that is our template for, okay, this is the way things are, and so I'm just going to continue to focus on this. And also in that, there's the ideas of change is slow. It can, it's going to take this much time, and we preconceive all those things, and nothing could be further from the truth. I mean,
Mhm.
I've seen, again, I've seen people instantaneously change all kinds of different things. So again, comes to that point where you've done that, right? Where there was a point
Mhm.
where it's like, no, I'm doing it. And that's when everything changes.
Yeah. That's kind of why I wanted to bring that up a little bit. Not just for like some self gratification, but because I think what I was getting at is that people who are listening, I know how discouraging it can be when you're first starting out and you feel like you're not making any progress.
Mm-hmm.
But if you just keep going,
Yeah.
then there is marked progress and you do get there. And I feel like we kind of touched on it before, but there's almost there's almost a danger in getting too, what's the word, too attached to one of the ideas. I've forgotten all about this, but I was absolutely focused on being a writer. I remember I wrote an essay about like, oh, I'm a writer and this is what I'm going to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
And but even then, looking back, I knew that I wasn't quite being honest with myself,
Right.
because I think best when I'm speaking. I have to be like, I can think well when I'm writing and when I get things out, but I do my best thinking when I'm talking out loud.
Right.
Like you should see me when I'm recording one of these podcasts, like just doing a solo one. I'll be down here. I'll record for like an hour
Right.
before I ever get anything that's good. I'll be
Right.
like, you've probably done this yourself, where I'm like, "Hi, welcome to Finding Fuscata. I'm Sean," and then I'll talk for like 5 minutes. I'm like, "No, that's crap." Like, okay, hi, welcome to Finding Fuscata. I'm Sean, and then I'll get like 15 minutes. And like, nope, that's not the direction I want to go. And then I kind of find that groove, and then I can like flow all the way through. And I'm like, okay, that's the thing that I wanted to say.
Right.
And what I like about that, with speaking rather than writing, and I think the thing that I liked about writing was being able to take those thoughts and bring them together and
Right.
turn them into something that's
Right.
useful.
Yeah.
But in this day and age, like, not many people read stuff like that anymore, you know.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I mean, folks do, but then with this gives me the freedom to be able to just spout off on my own sometimes, but then also have great conversations sometimes and learn new things,
Right.
and then I can go spout off on my own with what I've kind of processed.
Sure.
But anyway, but to go back to what I kind of started this thread with is, I would just encourage people to just start,
Yeah.
to just take the first step.
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. 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 Follow, again, it's following the energy, following the excitement, and when I say follow the energy, again, it's just what's exciting, what's capturing your curiosity, what's intriguing you, what lights you up, any of those things, and just start to follow that,
Mhm.
and just start doing that. When you do that, more things will just reveal, because you'll come to a point where, like you did with the woodworking stuff. It's like, okay, yeah, I'm going to go out, and you did it, you took action on it, and because it intrigued you, and then you
Mhm.
started, and it was just like, man, no, I hurt myself. That's not, I'm not,
I'm not. This isn't
this
for
is not,
me.
this isn't it. So, so again, but it's just, you're right. It's just starting.
Mm. Can we back up to for a second to the fracking? Because
Yeah,
I want to unpack that a little bit more.
sure.
So it's what's the acronym stand for?
Frequency, release, and activation clearing.
Frequency, release, and activation clearing. So
Yeah.
just so I'm understanding this, so when I think of frequency release, what I envision is like in Joe Dispenza's meditations where he has the clearing of the energy centers. Have you done that meditation?
Yep. Yeah.
So, and you visualize like the different chakras like going up your
Mhm.
spine, and you bless, or the blessing of the energy centers, yeah,
Right.
and you bless those. And what I've experienced when I've done those is different memories like started bubbling up, and different
Yeah.
things kind of came up, and those were thoughts and energies and emotions that were stuck in those areas of my body, and then they were able to be released, and those was all really helpful. So when I hear you say frequency release, in my mind, it's that same kind of thing. Like there's something stuck in a chakra, or is it something? Do you know what I
Um,
mean? Like I get that. I get confused on that.
yeah. To me, it's something, it's an energy that's stuck in your field. So it could be
So
stuck in
so
your,
you're more with like the aura.
you, to me, it's like it's either stuck in your body or in your field. So, and when we've done this before, right? Like we do about specific chakras. It's just like, okay, there's a belief that you have, or there's a story you're telling yourself, or there's something that you're kind of attached to, and
Mm,
it doesn't feel like it's working. So we just say, are you willing to release this or transform it? And then you just say yes. And in that, I go through that process of just the clearing statement. And however it works, I have no clue. It just it does, but it does. But what I know it does is it gets in at the subconscious level, and even I would even say at the cellular level, because of course your subconscious mind actually is in your cells, right? And
mm,
so it gets in there, and you're setting the intention when we do this to release it, and it comes out and the after effect of it is one of three things. You don't feel anything. It doesn't mean that it didn't change though. Or it's same thing as you said with the blessing of the energy centers. You'll either have a thought or an image will come to mind, and it can feel like it's related or totally not related, but it could be something that from the past somewhere, right?
mhm,
And then we continue to release that, and or transform that energy. And again, we're just letting that energy go. And the other thing is that you could feel something in your body,
mm,
and I know that was an experience that you had also, which was it's just like, oh, like, and it can be any kind of, and it's just allowing that energy to leave your body and to leave your field. And when that happens again, it's if we don't practice it again, because that's the
mm.
thing.
Yeah.
Again, we don't practice it again, then it's just we're just releasing it out into the world. Doesn't mean that there's not a different layer. Um, my aim is to get to go through as many layers as possible, but sometimes our subconscious doesn't let us do that, right
Mm.
away. So doing that and being able to do that on your own also is tremendously helpful.
Yeah, I can attest to the physical sensation. It surprised me the first time we did that. How it's hard to describe, but I have had experiences that are both downloads and releases, and they feel very, very different in the body.
Mhm.
So a few days ago, I had an epiphany, and I felt like this overwhelming sensation of just like love and gratitude, just like literally, I'd like somebody just took a bucket of love and gratitude emotion and just like
Yeah.
dumped it over my head.
Yeah.
It was the most beautiful. Like I was just like this whole body hug. It was amazing.
Yeah.
I pulled the car over. It was just so intense.
Yeah.
I kind of enjoyed it for a minute, and I was stunned, and it was not a good time to be driving. But
Yeah.
uh in my anyway, that's a whole other, that happens to me with relative frequency too, where I'll have like an aha moment or I'll understand something, but it's weird because it's like I understand it in my body,
Hmm.
but it's a very top down sensation.
Hmm.
And but when you and I were doing the fracking, that was very clearly a bottom up sensation. It
Right.
was something like I could feel it like rising up
Yeah.
from my solar plexus and coming out,
Yeah.
and then just feeling kind of free. And I remember, what was the thing you said, that like I might feel hungry or have cravings afterwards or
Yeah.
something like
Yeah.
that. And I
Yeah.
think that first time, like I was eating like grapes and cheese, like all grapes and cheese and crackers. I just shoved
Yeah.
them. I just could
Yeah.
not stop. I was craving them and craving them and craving them. It was crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, because there's some, yeah, there's just again, it's a consciousness shift, right? There's a lot
Mm,
of energy that is actually dispelled, and so, um, and sometimes it doesn't feel like a whole lot, and sometimes it's like very powerful, like you've had, and yeah, and it's just your body's way of saying, I need this, to
mm,
reconnect, or
yeah.
or just to feed in what needs to I shouldn't say repair is not it, but just just you've released something. So it's just giving back what it needs.
You know what I think of it as? Um, I have we got a pool in the backyard, and I got the filter running on it, you know,
Yeah.
and every once in a while you got to run the thing backwards,
Yeah.
so it blows the water back through in the other direction,
Yeah.
gets the filter cleared out.
Right. Sure.
And it almost kind of feels like that, like you just, or like when you I don't know, I've got a shop vac and it's got a big like cylinder filter in it,
Yeah.
and I take that every once in a while, I like shake it into the trash can, and all that stuff just goes flopping
Sure.
all over the place.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's, to me, that's what the fracking feels like. It's
Right.
like you've just like you sucked in all this stuff and it's just like jammed up in your filter,
Yeah.
and you just kind of like take it and you're just shaking it real quick and it
Right.
all just kind of like falls away.
Yeah.
But then I think like this is something that I would like to learn more about, this, about how our auras work, because the way that I understand it is that we have this energy field that goes out with us like 9 feet or so, like away from
Yeah.
our solar plexus.
Yeah.
But the way that I always pictured that is sort of like a magnet, like you've got like the poles on a magnet that kind of
Yeah.
make that shape. But I always picture that as like a toroidal field where the
Hmm.
energy is circulating,
Yeah.
but for some reason to me it's circulating this way.
Right.
It's not coming in from the top, it's circulating out, like we're putting energy out from the top and then
Right.
pulling energy back in from the bottom.
Right.
I don't know why I think that,
Right.
but to me that would make sense though. And this is completely unscientific. I no,
Yeah.
this is completely just off the top of my head.
Yeah.
But it does make me wonder if maybe that isn't part of it. It's like that
Sure.
the energy that's moving through you, like something
Sure.
gets blocked in there.
Yeah.
Then what you're doing with the fracking is you're just kind of like just rattling that a little bit, kind of shaking it, you know what I mean, and just
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
getting it to move better, and then you feel that release.
Yeah, and yeah, it's an energetic release, right? And yeah, to me again, it's just all that the energy of those limiting beliefs that we've had, or negative beliefs that we've had that just are let go, right? Just put back out into the universe.
Mm. It's still hard for me to visualize the idea of energy the energy of a limiting belief. That's hard for me to conceptualize.
Oh, as you're talking, there's a book that oh, hold on. This is something I got, and I haven't looked at it at all for a long, long, long time. And it's called Hands of Light, a guide to healing through the human energy field. I should look at it, and I'll put it right here. Oh, I'm
Almost,
not gonna. I'm not.
almost. We
Maybe
can't get
that's. Yeah.
it.
There we
Oh,
are.
there it is. There you go.
Yeah. Anyways, by Barbara Ann Brennan, but in here, like there's all kinds of pictures, and she uses chakras and such. Again, I haven't looked at this probably in 30 years. I have the
Oh
book
wow.
still. Out of all my moves, I still have this book. But there are lots of people who, when they see stuck energy, it's just like it can be dark or gray. So that's, or darker or
Mm,
gray color or something. And um, it's a densification of that energy area.
mm.
And it can be
Okay.
again stuck. It's not just in the chakras, but it can be stuck anywhere in your body and or your field. So
Yeah, my mother, my first wife's mom was she wasn't an energy healer.
mhm,
She never really did much with this that I know of, but she could see that very, very clearly.
sure.
She saw auras very clearly. I remember the last time I saw her, um, I was going through divorce. I was really, really angry. I just had like, I was putting on a happy face and I was doing the things. But as soon as I walked into the room, she was like, "Oh, Sean, what is?"
Sure.
She's like, "Oof, that's you got to keep your distance from me." But it was like a reek of garlic or something to her, just
Sure.
because
Yeah.
she was so sensitive to that.
Yeah.
But she ended up doing some work, uh, on doing some energy work on me, and she even I was always kind of skeptical until she was feeling my aura and checking it out, and then she pointed out that she was like, "Oh, I see like something wrong with your knee," and my knee was throbbing at the time. And I hadn't said anything to
Yeah.
anybody, and I was just recovering from a sprained ankle, and she's like, "Oh yeah, your knee's okay, but that's gonna be better. Give it a couple of weeks." And she's like, "Oh, your ankle looks like it's really painful," and I hadn't said anything, but just
Yeah.
from the energy of seeing that and kind of like
Yeah.
putting her hand close to it, she could get a feeling of like
Yeah.
what was going on inside my body.
Yeah.
And that was one of my experiences that convinced me that there's there. I've always been very, very skeptical, and then I think of her and I'm like, oh no, there are people who do this for real.
Yeah. 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 Well, how I kind of started with all of this a long, long time ago was I was interested in healing and magnets of all things, which is kind of funny because this is before I think I learned about law of attraction and such. And I could I could actually go right to, well, I was dealing mostly with acupressure at that point, and those points, and I could actually just go. I would just know where to go and just
Mm,
like touch it. It's like you just release it and it's gone, right? So,
yeah.
um, and yeah, I always thought that was pretty cool, but not something I wanted to do all the time.
Yeah. Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah,
But let me check the time. Okay, so it's 2 o'clock. So we've probably got about like 10 minutes left before the
sure,
dogs start freaking out.
sure.
Um, let's talk about what have you got going on right now? What would you what would you like to plug? I know you've got the coaching program.
Yeah.
Um, what else? Tell me about your coaching program.
Well, so the base of everything I do is Activating You 3.0 program. And I have varying degrees with that, different programs. So one is a group program, which is what you've been part of. So again, Activating You 3.0, it is, um, I give you everything in terms of what I've learned through, again, 17 years of working in this industry, right? And helping
Mm,
people achieve what they want. Again, it's how do you connect in with your frequency? How do you receive it? How do you identify really truly what you want? And then move through that. And also teach you how to do that, the fracking process, right? So you can
mm,
activate the thing that you want. My whole goal with everything is that you're not that it's simple, like to make it as
mm,
simple as possible. So if you do this, you go through this, activate it, um, activate the frequency, get rid of what's the chaff that's in between, and
mm-hmm,
and then you can actually experience that, start to experience the merging with your timeline or the thing that your goal that you really want.
mm,
And then I have other programs that are, I have one specifically also that is at that is still the base, but it's another group program that is specifically for business people.
mm.
And that is a 4-month program. And the other one is just one-on-one. again, the whole base is the Activating You program, but it's just very of working one-to-one with me. So the group program, the secondary group program, there's more one-to-one. In the Activating You, the base program, there's no one-to-one. It's just group calls. So,
Okay.
So it's a version of what you've been, the other program for
Right.
business people, specifically kind of what you've experienced. It's just yeah, but now I have the 3 different sections.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And how's that going?
It's great. And look, in my business, traditionally I've worked with 6, and it was funny because this is how things just become so normal. I have worked with 6, 7, and 8 figure entrepreneurs throughout my whole career.
Mm-hmm.
But I've also worked with people who are actually still just wanting to, identify what their purpose is. But ultimately, the people that I have worked with most have been those people who are at a different income level and who are believe in this consciousness process and using it as an unfair advantage. Using it as an unfair advantage, essentially, right? Because when you clear this stuff out and you have the path that is already there, it's so easy to see dramatic changes.
It seems like it would. I'm still kind of. It's weird. Like I've been doing this work for so long, but now I'm just moving into it with a little more clarity, and it really does feel like a superpower.
Yeah.
Like it really does feel like I could have a serious unfair advantage. I guess one of the things that strikes me too is like growing the podcast and YouTube and the whole Finding Fuscata thing is that I care nothing about competition.
Right.
I don't, it's like not even a thing in my mind. I'm like,
No.
I'm going and I'm just going. And I don't care what anybody else is doing. But it's a really weird thing to not be worried about like, how am I going to rise to the top? How am I going to be the best? What are other people doing? How do you blah, blah, blah. Because all that stuff ends up being just more and more distractions, and more and more negative energy that kind of blocks you, right?
Right. Well, and also that attachment to it. It's like, oh, it's got to be this, right? As opposed to, again, just going what feels really exciting and really, what brings you joy, right? So the more you follow that, it's just, it's going to bring you in the end, the thing that you really truly want, right?
I'm curious too about your perspective, having worked with, folks who are, in the 8-figure financial success level, and then working with folks who are in like the 10 or no, like the 6 or 7, not even that many, in the 5.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or like folks like me, just regular folks. But I wonder what it must be like to, like, how do I say this? The thing that I can compare it to is, when I was still in the military, I would go and I'd have a meeting with a 2-star general, and the 2-star general is like acts one way and people act that way around that person, and there's like this whole energy and aura around a 2-star general.
Right.
But then I'd go down and talk to an airman who like just came out of basic training and is still kind of like, figuring out the Air Force.
Right.
But being that middle person to say, oh, okay, here's some things that I saw the general doing that you could do.
Right.
And then I'm also applying it to my own life that'll help me along. Is it kind of like that? Like, do you know, do you kind of see the analogy I'm getting at?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it is essentially for the people who are kind of just, I just want to say just starting out, but who really want to manifest something, and they've had a really difficult time doing that and are not at the income level that they want to be, and maybe not even the right job or role that they want to be in. It's really kind of starting to get rid of all those layers of all that stuff, though, that those limiting beliefs and all that energy, and also clarify really truly what is their passion, and allowing them and giving them the tools to give themselves permission to have what they want. Most really up to 7-figure people, it's all, yeah, up to about probably about seven-figure people. It always comes down to, and this is surprising, I think that this would be surprising for a lot of people, it's still about worthiness and deserving.
Really?
Yeah. 8-figure people, it's not so much about that as much as, okay, now how can I actually create more of the life? There's that part of diminishing returns, right? It's like, okay, I've done all these things, I've done all these things to get here. I've manifested this way to get here. Now what do I want to do? Like, because now it's just about my life as opposed to building a business or building that success and building that income, right? Now it's like, okay, that's all there. It's all pretty much assured. But now who am I really? What do I want to do? How do I create more of space?
Yeah, I wonder sometimes if that doesn't hold me back and other folks back. Is like we talked a little bit earlier about smoking, and you have to shift your identity away from being a smoker. And I see that in some people who have very, very strong egos, that it becomes harder for them to want to move into a world like that, because then their identity would go away. Like if your identity is somebody who lives paycheck to paycheck, or if your identity is somebody who lives in a house that you don't really like, or if that's your identity, then when you get to another place, then you don't have any identity anymore.
Yeah, well, for sure. Yeah, so you've got to create that identity ahead of time. Or I shouldn't say that. You need to receive that identity. You have to identify what it is that you'd like and then just receive it, because it's already there. It's like a data download. But, even at that 8-figure and plus, we see this in celebrities, right? Where they get to the pinnacle of success and now it's just like, now what, right? And so they to get that high of getting, they need drugs and alcohol or whatever it is, right? Where for all of us, it's really connecting in with ourselves and again, follow the things that light us up and allowing that and being in gratitude for every day, right? And for the simplest of things, right? Those big things are awesome. So it's like, okay, I've got the big house now. I've got the car that I wanted. I've got the Rolex. I've got, all this stuff. But now what? It's like is that all there is? And it's not. So it's a different thing, right? So again, for everybody, it's on a continuum, really, essentially. But really, it's all about really just connecting with ourselves.
Yeah, I think that when I the way that I visualize my life when I'm there is I'm still driving a RAV4 because I love my RAV4. It's bulletproof, and there's a part of me that just I like getting as many miles out of a car as I possibly can. I've had this goal for a long time to get 350,000 miles out of a car, and I had a Honda Odyssey and I was at almost 300,000 miles. I was so proud of it. And then one of my wife's friends borrowed it and got T-boned and totaled it. So I had to start all over again. I'm like,
Right.
But now, I've got my RAV4 and I'm like, all right, it's about to turn over for the first time. This is great. It's going to, it's a bulletproof little car. Maybe this is my 350, But the thing is, like, I don't know, like I wouldn't move from this house. I would just do some renovations to this house. I would, but then for me, the freedom with the thing that financial freedom would bring is the ability to travel and to go see my kids and go see my dad and go, just take a weekend in London or, you know what I mean? Like to go and do that kind of stuff, to just keep expanding, to keep growing and changing and meeting people and having those experiences. And because like the watches and the cars and the like Quasi's always talking about like 100K a month, blah blah blah. I'm like, yeah, that's nice. 100K a month sounds great. you know, as long as I have an accountant, because I have no idea how to deal with that. Like,
Right.
don't just let me know how much I can spend today, and that's fine.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
and I'll hire a professional to manage the rest. You know.
Right. Well, but the thing is, all those things will come into play as they're required, right? So
Yeah.
it's just, again, it's yeah.
Oh. Ah. Okay. Something just clicked. Okay. Oh, this might be a big one. Okay. So one of the things that always held me back was not analysis by, well, paralysis by analysis, but letting perfection be the enemy of progress.
Yeah.
And I tend to spend a lot of time thinking about, you know, having the right microphone, or like I don't like the camera on this thing, and you know, like all those little sorts of things, or like, do I have the right website set up, or do I have to have an Instagram account, like, and like all those other sorts of things, instead of just like doing the thing.
Right.
And but one of the things that just clicked with me is that before I do this same thing with my financial abundance, is I worry about taxes, I worry about accountants, I worry
Yeah.
about like how am I going to manage that? What am I going to do? Like, how am I going to be? And so that's interesting that like I'm still, it's the same thing that I do in the immediate, in the physical, but I'm also doing that with my own abundance. And I
Right.
wonder if that's something that I just need to let go of
Yeah.
and say, hey, when it comes, then like, don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Like the day after it shows up, then you call an accountant, but
Yeah.
don't worry about it now. Like, there's
Yeah.
no sense looking for an accountant when you don't have the money yet.
No. No.
Right.
Well, it's akin to, you know, crawling. And when you know, when we're little kids and we're crawling and going, well, I don't need, looks like I do. Am I going to have the proper, you know, running shoes to run? It's like, of course, we don't know
Yeah.
at that age, but it's kind of the same thing. It's like, you know, we're not there yet, right? But again, it's just all of that will be revealed, right? And
Yeah.
if you're in that level of awareness, it's like, okay, I know this is going to be something I need to be aware of at some point, but not right now, and don't make sure it's not stopping me, right? So you want to release that.
Yeah, definitely. Hey, listen, I have a feeling that we're about to have a cacophony of barking dogs and
Sure.
children's feet pounding, so we should wrap this up real quick. What, give me a parting thought that you would like to share with my listeners and viewers.
The parting thought would be follow the energy, follow your excitement, and that's the place to start.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
And that's also
Yeah.
a good place to stop.
Yeah. Yeah. Can we give my website? I should have said that, maybe.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. It's liveanolimitslife.com.
liveanolimitslife.com. I will definitely put that in the description. Karen, it's so good to see you again.
Yeah, same here.
I love your smile, your energy. I just love everything about you. You're great. And we definitely have to do this. I do need to book a session with you too. So, look at that. My dog just got up and started barking. So everything just started. It's perfect timing.
It's on cue. It's perfect.
All right, Karen, I'll talk to you again soon.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Yeah.